as a head of production, like we're responsible for solving stuff, and you know what I mean? Like we make it happen. So if I'm a head of production that's always saying no, that doesn't inspire. I want to inspire. I want creatives to feel like we can always find a way to make it happen. If it's a $5,000 job, a $500,000 job, or a $5 million job,
right?
I look at those equally.
A garden of pure ideology.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad.
Or a hilarious beer ad.
Break was over 15 minutes ago, Mitch!
I think you're the best ever.
I think we're gonna be here a while.
Hello, audience. We are back for Filmmakers in Advertising. My name is Justin Rossbacher. I'm standing in for Cody Wilson while he is on paternity leave. And today we have Dan Blaney. So his portfolio and his resume is quite impressive, from being a Wieden+Kennedy, BBDO, Apple, Anomaly, and now at FIG. And his specialty is head of production. Current role is executive director of production, but basically head of production, you said. And so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Thanks for having me. You're humbling me with reading off all those credits, but it's really great to be here.
Yeah.
Psyched for this conversation. It's
Absolutely.
nice to have producers invited to a filmmakers, type platform.
Oh,
I
yes.
think it's a good thing for my community. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. No, the reality is each different role of the process, and there's so many different of them, are so necessary. And when we first started the podcast, we did it because we were in this industry, and yet there still seemed to be so much question marks that we had as far as like how things worked. And so we're like, well, we want to have these discussions. We're going to have those discussions and then share it with the world too. So
yeah, that's awesome.
It's been quite a joy. And looking through your portfolio as well, seeing the multiple AT&T campaigns, including the delightful one with Taylor Swift's Now spot.
Yes.
And the Bud Light Super Bowl commercial spot, Up for Whatever, Epic Night. And I remember when that one aired, and the whole Arnold Schwarzenegger in a wig, playing ping pong was just quite a delightful finish for that spot.
That was I feel like I lost a few years of my life on that one.
Oh, do tell.
That was probably the toughest production I've ever been involved with. For one, my daughter was born like 2 weeks before that. But it was just a massive undertaking. It was, 48 hidden cameras, shooting in the New World Trade Building, multiple celebrities. It's something that we hadn't done before, and it was just super high stakes, lots of pressure. And it's just one of those. It was just a beast of a production. So it was really nice to see it finished in a way, and it worked. I think there's an energy and there's a high when it comes to doing activations and stunts. That's different than shooting commercials. It's like you have one chance. Yeah. It's all in the prep. There's a little bit of luck involved, and you can't really beat that adrenaline rush that you get when you do like stunt and activation work. It's such a thrill. But it was it was a very hard job. But in the end, Ian was incredible. Yeah. And we shot two guys for that, right? We shot Ian, put him through the gauntlet, and that's who you see in the final commercial. Yeah.
They have no clue.
They have no clue. We basically did.
So they hadn't signed a release or anything? Or
they signed releases, but it was under the guise of focus groups.
Oh.
So we did like a fake focus group with people. Are you adventurous? Like, are you up for whatever? We
right.
So it's a pretty detailed process, and then we sort of whittled it down to two guys, and the final steps in their focus group process was like meeting out in the real world and kind of hanging out with other people that were in the focus group. So we kind of held them in this holding tank. I think in the we're at the hotel, the Boom Boom Room, in meatpacking, and Ian was the first one to run through the gauntlet, and it was incredible. Like all of those reactions were genuine. He had no idea. So we finished him at like 3:30 in the morning.
And he had some witty one-liners.
It was
I mean,
he was perfect, and he was just genuinely pumped. It was amazing. So when he was finished, we had another guy waiting.
To do it too.
Yep.
Like to go through the whole thing.
Named Dan. But we had him go through it around 3 a.m, and he was just totally suspected something was up and kept asking us questions. It didn't work. You know what I mean? So we tried both in the edit, but Ian was clearly just awesome. And it was everyone was really proud of the work. Because in the end, and Jeff Tremaine, Jackass fame, he was great, perfect fit for this with his, hidden camera experience. And he had a great temperament because, the pressure was very high, and he was a really good constant. I think
that's great. The pressure is really high.
Pressure's really high. And I think it's, you need that in a director, but I think when it comes to producers, like you need to be the calm in that storm. I think that's something I always tell my producers. It's like, creatives, account people, everyone reacts and feeds off of your energy, right? Yeah. So as the producer, you need to, if you're gonna stress, go into the bathroom, but you need to be that vision of sort of confidence and we're gonna make it happen. I think that's something that I've always taught my producers, and I think that comes with experience, doing, multiple types of jobs, different challenges, but it's something I've always, want to communicate to my producers. Like you are that calm and that constant. You're people feed off of you and they feed off of your energy. So I think it's important to always be that person that people look at, that, things are going to be good. It might be tricky, but in the end, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Well, I saw on your website something that really resonated with me was the idea of being passionate about guiding and growing next generation, and the importance of we're only as good as our mentors.
Yes.
So I was curious. You just mentioned there as far as like the importance of that calm and that optimism that was involved in there. Like, where did you learn that? Who inspired you? Who mentored you?
That's a great question. It is true. Like shaping and mentoring the next generation of great producers. It really is my joy. I still love producing, but I want to grow the next superstars. It's really important to me. And I had, I started this career at Darcy Advertising, one of the big ad agencies, in 1998. I worked for,
Is that when you moved to New York?
Yeah, I moved to New York in 1998.
Okay. Where were you before that?
I was teaching tennis at a day camp after I graduated from UMass Amherst.
Okay.
And my passion for advertising started, I had an internship at an agency called Houston Steck Favat on Newberry Street, and I worked in the dub room, when we had like 3/4 inch tapes and the big Sony decks.
Yeah.
And I actually worked for Tim Legallo, who is like the chief production officer of North America for Ogilvy. So we both worked in the dub room. He'll laugh if he listens to this, but we both worked in the dub room. I worked for him, just two of us in this tiny little room making, just dubbing all day. You know what I mean? And
right.
But I still didn't know what advertising was about. I was, sophomore in college. I was working in this dub room.
So that was like an internship kind of.
It was an internship.
Yeah. So you were studying advertising.
Yeah, communications. You know what I mean, at UMass.
Okay, yeah.
But I blasted a bunch of resumes off the summer of '98, and a woman named Jenny Wadhams, who was the head of production at Darcy, called me in for a role as like a business manager. I didn't know what that was, and she.
What is that?
Business manager is someone who's an integral part of the production department. They're like our right-hand person, so they work with us on bidding and. Anything that requires clearances, numbers, estimates. You know, they're the best partners we could have in production.
Yes.
Right? They're you can't produce without a great BA partner. And I've always said how integral they are.
Business affairs,
and how integral they are to the success of any production. So as I was walking out of my interview, they called me back, and she called me back into her office, and she's an incredible woman, just incredible presence, remarkable, and made such an impression on me as a 22-year-old moving to New York. And I went back to her gigantic office, because back then everyone had offices, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone, even I had an office when I was 23 years old. I don't have an office now. But she called me back and said, listen, I'm looking for a production assistant. Would you like to be our first production assistant? I said, yes. And I ended up working for like 4 fantastic women, these incredible producers. And I had great training. I started from the bottom, and another guy there, Colin Pearsall, was one of my favorite mentors, and they taught me everything. And I think one of the things they taught me most was how to treat your partners, your vendors, right? And that's what I do with my producers. Listen, your relationships with the production community, the post-production community, it's not transactional, right? You are building relationships that, if you want to have a career in advertising for 30 years, it's really important to look at those people as friends and partners. It's not transactional. So those are like sort of the nuances. That's what you learn from good training. And it's like those intangibles and the nuances of navigating the industry and production etiquette, I think, is really important.
I really like what you said there as far as the aspect of it's not transactional. Tell me more about that, or where do you see people make that mistake, and what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it does come back to training, and understanding. Listen, you're in this business for a long time, so the quality of the person and the kind of partner that you work with is really important. And as an early producer, you're sort of building your brand. This is your reputation, and it starts early. So if you don't have the right training, you start making mistakes, and the mistakes I'm talking about aren't, hey, you didn't do this schedule right, or you kind of made a mistake with this estimate. It's, you were bidding production with 2 different companies, or you're triple bidding, and obviously one director gets it, but you didn't call the other production company to tell them they didn't get the job. Maybe you just sent an email. That's a good example of, if you have the right mentor, they could say to you, listen, the most important call really is the one that you make to the company that didn't get the job, because it's easy to make that call to the production company that got the job.
Right.
Those are harder calls, but those are the important calls, and those are the ones that really define you as a partner and a person and a presence in the industry. And I think if you learn that early, you're going to have a great career. You know what I mean? You're going to have an excellent career, and you're going to have, partners that will do anything for you. Or, hey, listen, the budget's tight, the schedule's really ambitious, but I know that Blaney's on this. I know Blaney's team is on this. It's going to be okay. Because I think it's important that you are, as a producer, you're not only supporting your agency creatives and your agency partners, you're also supporting your production partners and and the directors and the craftspeople on that end too. It's important to keep the relationship and the harmony between the client, the agency, and the production company. It's really important, And I would never say that director is royalty. It's not about that. I think it's just being able to protect everyone. You know what I mean? But back to transactional, yeah, it's I think it's easy without the right training to take advantage of your partners, because you don't really know otherwise because you weren't trained. But
Makes sense.
if you know, then again,
There's a few times I wish we got a phone call rather than when we lost.
Yeah.
A job. So yeah, definitely.
yeah, I think it's the little things. I think,
So people still use the phone.
yeah, people still use the phone, but I think people, tend to email when it's the harder things to communicate. And it's a business. So if a production company doesn't get a job, it's a bummer. But when you make that call, then it makes the world a difference, because at the end of the day, like I said, it is a business. But if they could hear a voice and say, we get it, Dan, it's a bummer, but thanks for calling. It just goes a long way. And it sounds so simple, and it's, I'm not here to, I'm not someone that I'm on into philosophy, and I'm pretty simple.
Yeah.
But there are nuances, and there are certain things that you can do and learn as a producer that are going to make sure you have an amazing career. And I think, when it comes to producers, you have to find, I'm going off on a tangent here, but every producer has that intangible.
Yeah.
Like what's your special sauce?
Yeah.
And I think you have to lean into that. I know what my special sauce is. I know what my intangible is. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what separates all of us producers. You know what I mean? Like, some producers are really super tech driven. You know what I mean? And others are just great managing. Others are real creative partners. You know what I mean? And others know how to bring people together. I mean, you just have to lean into what you're good at, and that takes time. It takes experience, but not all producers are the same, and I think that's what makes our community really special.
Yeah. What would you say some of your special sauce is? Calm in the storm, or?
Yeah, I think getting, or bringing the best out of everyone, I think is something that I've always enjoyed. I think when I can make, when I can bring the crew and the agency, everyone together, so it doesn't feel like we're separate. I think that's really, really important to me. I've always loved doing this job, because it's not just about, we're not just managing a job. We're managing the work. We're amplifying it. We're protecting it. In many ways, we are like the creative conduits. Like, we're kind of like the gatekeepers. Like, producers have a lot of influence, like, as far as exposing creatives to, new directors, underrepresented creators. Like, we have a big role as far as shaping and crafting what we do. And I think managing budget and schedule is baseline, but I wouldn't love this profession if I didn't have a seat at the table and I didn't have a creative voice. And it's kind of a cliche saying, producers are the third creatives, but it's true. Like, the best CCOs and the best creative teams in the world look at producers as that third creative partner. And that's a beautiful thing, especially as a young producer, when you start to develop your voice and you're like, oh wow, okay, my opinion matters. I have taste. I have an aesthetic. I'm going to help shape this, and that's an incredible feeling. I mean, it could be as simple as you are composing a track and you have an idea to make that track better, or if it's a choice in director, or if it's somehow a way you elevate the script, solve a problem. I just wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't didn't have an integral part of the creative process. It's just that's non-negotiable for me, and that's why I enjoy it so much. And
yeah, absolutely. Now, was that something that was kind of modeled and fostered? Because that's definitely something that I've noticed that I've had to do with my team and collaborators, is to continue to encourage and give a safe place that we need your creative involvement. By you not speaking up, you're not servicing the project, you're not servicing the client, you're not servicing things together, and people feeling like they don't have necessarily a voice, including in producer roles and such. So was that something that was kind of fostered, and like you give an example, or was it just led by example, or fostered, I guess is what I'm trying to say, like trained?
Yeah, I think, in my, like I mentioned Colin Pearsall, who was like one of my early mentors, Gary Krieg, who was my head of production at Wieden. He really, we'll talk about that later, but Gary kind of brought me from, producing jobs like Thermacare, heat wraps at Publicist to giving me my first opportunity to come to Wieden. So that was definitely a big milestone in my career. But yeah, I think it's having mentors that you usually as an assistant producer, you're shadowing your EP, right? So you're seeing firsthand how they operate, how they handle situations, how they work with creatives, and yes, how they elevate the work and drive it. And when you see creatives give producers that space to do that, that's really exciting. You know what I mean? And so
I guess going back to the idea of relationships and developing a reputation, if you're known as a producer that not only gets things done and supports, but that your level of creative involvement actually enhances the project, then it makes it easier for, I guess, other creatives to work with you. Is that kind of
I think
develops over time?
Yeah, and I think building relationships with creatives is incredibly important. It's a compliment. Especially when my younger producers are requested by the same creative teams again and again. That is the highest compliment you could get. Because I think at the end of the day, you're sort of building a network outside of partners, but internally in agencies, you're building relationships too. And, I have, creative directors and creatives that I've done many jobs with, and it all started with that first one. And there's a trust that develops. And I think at the very beginning with producers and creatives, you're sort of feeling each other out. And then there's that one moment where it's like, it opens up, right? And like, okay, I could trust Blaney, you know what I mean? And then it's gangbusters. Then it's like that relationship is sealed. But yeah, seeing that firsthand from my mentors and understanding, okay, this is not just a job where I'm, again, making schedules and telling people where to go for sessions and crunching numbers. I'm a part of this creative process. Like I'm helping, shape the work. And of course, it's like, you never force anything. You wait for the right moment when the trust is there, and then again, it's a beautiful thing. But I think it's experience too. It's like having that confidence to make that, to speak up. You know what I mean? To give your opinion. But I always tell my producers, your creative voice is as important as anyone in the room. And a great idea to come from anywhere. You know what I mean? That's the truth. It's a great idea could come from strategy, it could come from comms, it could come from an account person, it could come from anyone. And I think
absolutely,
I think the industry and maybe in the past was more creatively driven, and it's always creative first. But again, ideas can come from anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everyone should have the confidence to share them.
Absolutely. We had my business partner many years ago. I think we were back in college even, and we were watching the show Lost, which I love. Did you watch Lost?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good.
So good.
Oh man, phenomenon in in TV history.
Incredible.
And it was, I think it might have been the final season, but there was one episode where one of the characters was dealing with something, figuring out his own identity and all of this, and he has this moment, and he is looking at himself in a mirror. And the two of us, my business partner, both independently, were like, don't break the mirror. Like, we've seen this too many times, someone breaking the mirror because of whatever it is. And then sure enough, he broke the mirror. And then this, to tie this in what you were saying, but basically there's some intern on that set that went, he was shaking his head and going, and so then it developed a phrase in our company once we did start it, which was never disregard the intern. Like,
love it.
The good idea can come from anywhere, and sometimes we're so close to it or blinded we don't quite see the thing that some fresh eyes might be able to see into it or thinks differently about it. And
it makes a lot of sense. And I think the only thing that's I think ego is a great kryptonite to ideas. You know, I think the best, you know, the creatives I've worked with don't have ego. You know, they're there for the work to make it great. It doesn't matter how we do it. We just want to make it great. And I think having that trust, you know, the confidence, you know, to operate that way, I think is really important, you know. So again, I've always encouraged my producers to use their voice. Like you have taste, you have your own aesthetic and point of view, and you know, you're here for a reason. You're here to make the best work possible, and use it. Use your voice and use your skills, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to fail. Like, you know, especially with me in their corner, you know what I mean? That's a thing. Like, you know, producing and managing are very different. You could be a great producer, but you might not be the best manager. As a manager, it's an investment in people that's effortless, right? Yeah. It's effortless. Like, you know, you want them to succeed. Like you know, they could text me all hours. It doesn't matter. Like it's a beautiful thing because I have that too. It's like someone always has your back. Yeah. And you're invested, you know, not only in the job that they're working on, but you're invested in their future. Like, you know, where do we want to be in a year or 2 years, right? So you need someone that cares about the trajectory of your career and is going to do the things to get you to that next level. I think it's more important than the you know, the job that you're working on right now. You have to see the bigger picture for them, because I always have that, you know. And, and it's really important, you know. So again, it's the mentorship and the being the guide, the friend, the problem solver, whatever. It's just, you know, it's but again, it should feel. If it doesn't, as a manager, if that doesn't feel effortless, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. So I see a lot of basketball work in your portfolio.
Yes.
Did you grow up liking basketball, playing basketball? Just fell into it? Or?
I played Division I for North Carolina.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. That felt good saying. I felt really good saying that. Oh, let me imagine that for a second. No, I didn't. No. Well, it goes back to Wieden. You know, I'm a little bit older. I'm not going to say my age, but you know what I'm saying. But no, I'm a middle-aged man, and I grew up in the era of Jordan and loving the threes and the fours and the fives. And I remember when my grandmother first got me my first pair of fours, the black cements. I can still smell them. I was, you know, so when I was at Publicis, you know, I started my career again in Darcy Publicis, and I learned all the fundamentals there. I don't think I was working on like the sexiest stuff, but I learned how to be a producer, and that was invaluable. But Gary Krieg, who was my head of production, became my head of production at Wieden, and he brought me in. You know, I interviewed with him, and, you know, they had the Jordan brand. It's like my dream to work on Jordan. And I remember I interviewed with him, and I was so proud of this like Pepto-Bismol rough cut that I had. I was like, I'm gonna go to this interview and I'm gonna show him this rough cut. He's gonna love it, because it's so good. And, you know, he just, whatever, you know what I mean? But that's, you know, I was really passionate about anything I worked on. And I remember him telling me, that was the second time I interviewed with him, and he said, you know, in 2 weeks, we'll have you here. And in 2 weeks, I was on a plane with two creatives that are now really good friends of mine, Nick Sonderop and Eric Stevens, and we were flying all around the country with an incredible director, Derek Sion France, shooting NBA athletes all over the country for an ESPN NBA playoff campaign. Wow. And I was like, damn, I am not going to fuck this up. This is it. You know, this is my, you know, Gary gave you my chance, you know, to really flourish. And he opened the door, and I had an incredible career that I so appreciated at Wieden. And I worked on, you know, many Jordan films back in the day where like the 60-second spot was it. And you're just, you know, working with directors like, you know, Rupert Sanders and Ring and Ledwidge, just, you know, great storytellers. And it was just a beautiful time in my career. You know, Keith Cartwright, who owns Cartwright, he was my creative director back then and still one of my best friends. And we made some really awesome work. And, it was just, as you get older in your career, you really reminisce. It becomes more nostalgic than you ever could imagine when you think about those days. But yeah, I mean, I've always loved basketball, but being like a Jordan retro fanatic, ultimately recording Michael at a radio station in Charlotte one day was unbelievable. And I remember we spent an hour with him and he finally warmed up. He was recording all the VO for the campaign, Become Legendary. And it was 2 clients, myself and Keith, and we were at another shoot somewhere and we took a plane to Charlotte. And when he recorded all the scripts, I was like, oh shit, I think I have to ask him to like do it again because now he's warmed up. Can I do this? Am I allowed to ask Michael Jordan to do it again?
Yeah.
And I asked him, he's like, yeah, because I'm warmed up now, right? I'm like, yes. And he's like, okay. I was like, yes. But again, that's another example of a producer. Like, you only have one shot. And that's what I tell creatives and producers. When you're shooting, whenever, you only have one chance. You have to, if you're on shoot and you want another take or you're not sure, say it. Come to me, whatever, but you don't want to be thinking about it on the plane home. Damn, I wish I asked to do this, because you only have one shot in production.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure that you walk away knowing that you got everything you needed, And I think that was a moment for me, kind of still young in my career. Like, this is my role. Like, this is a way that I'm making the work better, because I'm going to ask Michael Jordan to do this again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a nuance, but I think you just have to, and that comes with experience. But there's those moments where I remember probably walking out. I think Keith was like, that, nice one. You know what I mean? And sometimes, I think that's the role of a producer is, having to speak up when maybe others can't, or maybe, it's like
Yeah, totally.
It's just having the awareness that, okay, we need to do this because that's going to lead to better work. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So for the people who may not know, what does head of production day to day do?
So a head of production, their responsibility is they're essentially managing the production department. So they're responsible for the producers, the work that they do, and really oversight on everything that's production related in the agency. What I love about FIG is, everyone, leadership, we're all upstream. We're deep into the work. So I'll produce as well, but at the same time, I'm mentoring and guiding and helping the producers with their projects as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the best part of it, of course, is operations and process and obviously trying to, make workflow as smooth as possible. But at the end of the day, what I love about being a head of production, again, is shaping and mentoring, the future of the producers and making sure that, they always have their best foot forward and always set up for success. Like, I don't like to micromanage. I like to be present and, I'm there for whatever they need. But, and again, head of production roles at bigger companies are different than at, smaller companies. Some head of productions operate very high, but I prefer, and I've always preferred, to be in the weeds and in the work. And I think that's, being a producer in that sort of 2005 to 2019 kind of era, like the producers of that generation, we had a specific producer gene, right?
Yeah,
like we can, it's never no, always a solution. We could do 45 things in our head. You know what I mean? There's no ego. We can make anything happen. And I think it's like that work ethic. I think to a fault, like I don't take vacation that much, and I really probably should, but like it's not a 9 to 5, like a producer job is not 9 to 5. You're always thinking about the job and it's a passion, and, we want it as much as anyone, we want the work to be as good as possible. And I think that's why I've always preferred to be close to the work. I think it'd be hard for me to elevate or operate from a very high level because I want to be close to it. I like the texture. I like working closely with my producers. It's always, it's the fun part of it, and
right. Yeah, absolutely. So bringing it to, again, we have a lot of filmmakers on that side. So directors, production companies, and others that are listening in. When you're involved in figuring out how to partner with a production company, how to partner with a director, how does that process work? Maybe more uniquely or differently or the same as far as at FIG or somewhere else?
Yeah, I think it always starts with like what is the concept? What's the script?
Mm-hmm.
Is it comedy? Is it visual storytelling? Is it really about casting and performance? And I think the beauty of that, the beginning of that process, and it hasn't changed, is creatives look at producers to share with them that director list.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, who are you thinking for this? Who's good for this? And it is a collaboration, but I love how it is kind of our responsibility to expose them to and share like who could be good for this. And that's what I mean by like producers being sort of like the gatekeepers of the work, like the creative conduits. Like, we have the opportunity to open creatives' minds, so they're not just looking at the usual suspects. They're looking at underrepresented creators, people that,
Well, I was about to ask that.
Yeah.
Like, where is this list coming from you? Or you're mainly getting them from reps? Are you also scouring Vimeo and other places to find new talent? Or like, how does that work?
I think it's a combination of all of that. You know what I mean? I think it's, having like a mental library of directors just from my experience. It's also, talking with reps. So I think, the importance of the rep is very undervalued, I think, in our industry. The best reps are incredible resources, some of the smartest people in the industry. But it is a combination of, because the thing is, like, there's a lot of on rosters, there could be directors that are new signings and aren't that aren't on the roster yet. So you're speaking to a rep and they're like, hey, listen, so this person isn't available, but we just signed this this new director. Okay, so it's like it's important to talk to your reps and talk to your EPs and scour and discover what new talent is out there. Talk to other head of productions. Talk to other producers. Like, I think the community of the production community is a great platform and resource to find out what new talent's out there. Or, hey, have you worked? I did work. It was okay experience. It's like good to get feedback. But I think for young producers especially, like, dedicate X amount of hours per month and just look at reels. Look at reels. Like, I think it's really important because you might be a young producer and you're working with an EP and the EP is talking to creatives about directors, and you start to identify and recognize the directors they're talking about because you're doing the research. That's really important.
Yeah.
Because again, at the end of the day, creatives look at us for our recommendations. Who is going to bring this to life in the best way? From editors, from composers, from directors. There's so many important artists that play a role.
And you're giving insight to all those things.
Yeah.
What about like director of photography? Or, I guess you're leaning on the director a lot, but are you also providing insights into those too?
Yeah, especially, I think, for certain caliber directors, there is such a shorthand and chemistry that you kind of need to trust that relationship.
Right.
But no, I think it's important, once we're in that stage when we are awarding to a director, like their DP choice, their production designer, like, those are all craftspeople that, can make the difference between a good and a great film. So, production companies are really good at exposing us and bringing us into those choices. Like they don't book people, without letting us know. And I think, collaboration always leads to great work. Collaboration and trust from both sides, which is why for producers, I think it's important to not only support your agency creatives and your agency, but you have to support the production companies as well. I think it's really paramount to do that, and I think in production companies, they appreciate the producers that look out for them too. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, this is like one team trying to get to great work, and it's not just about agency versus production. It's got to be, it's it's a collaboration, and that's how you do it with your clients too. You know, you're making choices together. You know, I think, you know, gone are the days where, you know, you just kind of run with it. You know, you get to great work by great collaboration from agency, brand, and production.
Yeah, makes sense. What advice do you have for directors? Like, what stands out? What's a caution against as far as in how you work? Or
again, I think it's you know, it comes back to collaboration. Like, you know, creators are going to have ideas, directors are going to have ideas. I think it's important for creative to let directors cook. You know what I mean? There's a certain level of, I wouldn't say letting go or giving up, but, you know, we've hired directors for a reason, for their expertise, you know, for the particular special sauce they bring to it, for their point of view. You don't want a director just to shoot the script. You know, you want them to elevate it. And so sometimes it's hard for us to give up on certain things, but it's just about being open-minded and letting other ideas come through, you know, because again, it doesn't matter who has the idea, how we get to great work is what's important. And the same thing for the, you know, director too. It's like, it could never be like one-sided. It's like, again, director's not royalty and agency's not royalty. You know, we have to work together to get to the best work possible. And, you know, you don't want a director that's just going to shoot, like, again, you don't want a director that's just going to shoot your script. You want a director with a point of view.
yeah,
Right. And we want agencies with points of view, but we want this to be, you know, a journey that we go through together, and we're making decisions together, and there's going to be disagreements, and you know, he might like one actor, we might like the other, but at the end of the day, you know, you're hopefully aligned. So when you get to the shoot, you know, everyone's feeling great, but creative process is a journey, you know what I mean? And hopefully it's 99% smooth, but, you know, I don't think production's like an exact science, and every production has its own, you know, challenges and variables at play and logistics buried into it. And I think it's just, you know, just don't worry. We're all really good at what we do. And it goes back to like sort of kind of being that constant or that calm in the storm, you know. It's gonna be good. We're gonna be okay, you know, because we all know what we're doing and we have great people around us. And I think if you have that confidence going in and throughout, it just leads to great work and a fun experience. Because at the end of the day, we're all working really hard. Let's have fun while we're doing this.
Amen.
You know, and I think that's
Absolutely. Yep. Fun is one of our company values. So,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Sometimes people forget about it, so it's nice to keep that spirit going.
Totally.
When do you give a chance on a greener director or a greener production company, or how does that work? Like the discovery, if you will, if you found somebody, or
I think on every job, you know, you try to do that. I think, you know, one job in particular that was incredible experience was, you know, the talk that we did for P&G, you know, which confronted racial bias through the point of view of, you know, Black mothers having to have the race talk with their kids generation after generation after generation. And that film was meant for everyone to see, to talk about this really hard truth, and discuss why we're still talking about the talk. And that was a really special project. And, you know, having the right partners involved was critical. And we worked with this director, Malik Vital, from Corner Shop, and he hadn't done a commercial before. You know, he did one film for Netflix called Imperial Dreams. It's like a modern day hood film. Okay. And, you know, the stakes were high for this. And, you know, I shared that reel with the creatives. I was like, this, you know, he could be great. You know, we love Corner Shop. Anna Hashmi is, you know, one of the best, loveliest production company owners. And I knew with her support, with the young director, she would give him the support to make this incredible and build A+ crew around him. And And that's kind of goes back to creatives trusting producers. Like for me to have the confidence and be comfortable to go to my creative team and say, listen, I know this guy hasn't done a commercial before, but I think he's the right person for this. Like that's, you have to kind of earn that trust over time.
Yeah.
And, it ended up being, one of the, best experiences I've had in my career, because those types of projects don't come around that often. And it was such an important subject, and it had to be right. And choosing the partners, from casting to wardrobe stylist to production designer, it was all, had to be very delicately handled and handled the right way. And it was an incredible experience, but that's
wonderful.
Yeah. That's probably the best example.
That's a good example. Yeah, definitely. On the reverse end, is there something that a filmmaker has done that's pretty much closed the door for like wanting to work with them again?
Yes. 100%.
Okay.
It's only happened once.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. I think back in the day, I think directors had a lot more egos. I think there's so many talented people now that, just can't afford to do that anymore. Maybe maybe directors are nicer now, but I think I've only had one experience where, it was connected to a celebrity, and it was like a celebrity dictating a director that we had to use, so immediately when the motivations aren't to create great work with us. It's more about, the fee, you know what I mean? Again, it doesn't happen often, but that was also a unique experience that, again, was out of our control. We did not pick that director. It was in a contract, right?
Right.
So when those situations happen, you want to hope for the best outcome. And, I think we just had to roll up our sleeves a little bit more, and it was kind of riveting because we pretty much had to direct a lot of that commercial, or the 11 days that we spent in production. So you kind of walk away kind of laughing a little bit because you're like, wow, that really happened. And, we're blocking out shots with the stunt coordinator and the line and the first AD while the director's in his trailer. You know what I mean? It's like, it was just, but that's an experience. Like every job is an experience, and every job you learn from, and every job you're going to take away something really positive and valuable, and that was one of those unique productions where we had to flex, maybe more than we had to, but in a way, looking back, I'm like, all right, we flexed and we made it happen, and that was cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned on your site that the idea of wanting to create emotive and meaningful work.
Yeah.
How do you keep that as a central idea in the work that you do, and what guards against those things? Or I guess a good example. I've had people in this industry, they got into it with some passion and then ended up leaving because they felt like there wasn't meaning in what they were doing. So I'm just curious, like how do you keep that kind of focus? Where do you find it?
I think it's being close to the work, and knowing that, I am a creative contributor, and I'm not just watching from the sidelines. You know what I mean? I think my passion and my imprint is everywhere in what we do. And you're not always going to have projects like The Talk. You know what I mean? Those come once in a while. But if you look at every project as a way, or as an opportunity to do something great, and it could be, it doesn't matter, big or small. I think for a producer, looking at every job through the lens of flawless execution and the highest creative outcome possible. I think if you hold those standards high, you're going to be passionate no matter what. You know what I mean? And I think it's keeping yourself motivated. And like, listen, advertising, it's hard sometimes. It's high stakes. You're dealing with lots of money and time, and you don't have as much time to do things anymore. You don't have as much money to do things anymore. So I think it's surrounding yourself by people that kind of have a shared vision, and keeping it light, I think that helps. I think mindset is everything. I think it's up to you to find meaning and value in your work, right? And I think there's enough really good stuff, personally for me, where I work and the things that I do that it keeps me going. You know what I mean? It keeps me creatively fulfilled. And I think, again, seeing my producers succeed and kill it, and that brings me a lot of joy, and that and passion. So it's almost like it's the meaning that you bring to the actual work, but also the meaning you bring to the process and just creating culture and community. I think that's really important too. Like, I think FIG has a really beautiful, culture and community of support. And it's been really nice to see that over the last, almost 2 years. But I think it's a mindset, not every week's going to be perfect. I mean,
Sure.
Some days you're doing 14, 15 hours a day. Cause again, as producers, it's really hard to turn it off. I think once I start turning it off, it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore, because you're always trying to find a solution. You're always trying to make it work. Like I learned that at Wieden. I remember a producer said to me, I love you and I love the producers at Wieden because you don't say no. I think no is the worst word just to say to a creative. There's always a way.
Yeah.
I think Ringen, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he said to me once, it's not, incredibly profound, but it was during COVID and he came in and talked to some of my producers. He's arguably one of the best commercial directors of all time and one of the sweetest guys. But we were talking about how he shot something in COVID and the challenges. He's like, listen, as long as you can protect the core idea, there's always a way to make it work,
I love that.
So I've always, held on to that. That was more recent in my career, but I'd worked with him, before that. But that was something that's like, as long as you could protect the core idea, there's many ways to skin this thing, and we might not execute it how we originally envisioned.
Yeah.
But there's always a way. And I think it's just an attitude. I think again, it comes down to you are, as a head of production, like we're responsible for solving stuff and you know what I mean? Like we make it happen. So if I'm a head of production that's always saying no, that's, that doesn't inspire. I want to inspire. I want creatives to feel like we could always find a way to make it happen. And I hope that they think I do. And I really try to, and my producers, definitely make that happen. So I think it's this motivation mindset and the want and need to like create great work. If it's a $5,000 job, a $500,000 job, or a $5 million job,
right?
I look at those equally.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. I've definitely had certain collaborators that no was a favorite word, and I didn't quite understand. And I'm guessing sometimes not saying no doesn't mean you're going to be able to do exactly what they asked, but it's to figure out what the essence is and then redirect and give it a momentum and energy for providing solutions maybe in a different way that they hadn't thought of. Would that be accurate? Or
yeah, if there's a script that the way we're looking at it maybe logistically is not possible, or maybe from a budget standpoint is not entirely possible, but if we do this, then we can make it happen. I remember a very simple example, but I remember seeing a script when I was at Wieden. It was an activist stunt where Carmelo Anthony is playing basketball on the Hudson River, right? And looking at this script, it's like, ooh, okay, how do we do this? Like, you can't project onto water, but is there another way we can do this? And we figured out, we could, use, water screens and bubble, whatever. We found a way to make it happen. It wasn't exactly how the creators envisioned,
right?
But we were able to figure out the logistics and create content that was pretty awesome that we put into those water screens and created a really awesome stunt. So it's like, I wouldn't look at that script and say, we can't, Carmelo Anthony projecting on water, we can't do that. No, that's not what you want to say. You want to say, hey, it might be tricky to do it this way, but let's figure out, let's get on the phone call with some like projection experts. Let's dig into this. I want to create momentum. If it's an idea is great, you got to create momentum around it and get your creatives excited.
Exactly.
And attack it. And then we did it, so you have to want it, like you have to want to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I think that's why you're a producer, because you make shit happen.
Absolutely.
And, and sometimes it's hard and it takes research and, sweat and all that. But at the end of the day, I think it's all worth it,
Absolutely. Well, and it's inspiring to know when someone on a higher level, like the head of production or producer, has that attitude, it really does trickle down. And it is inspiring for other partners to come around, whether it be production company, a director, whether it be DP, whether be a production assistant, to be able to have that attitude go all the way down of we are excitedly living in reality, but at the same time, not taking no for an answer, being able to redirect and find solutions. So I think it's beautiful.
For sure. It's, I think it's the sort of outlook and approach that, that needs to be taken if you want to do this, we're responsible for making things, and I think producers have, bringing us upstream, especially to inform how we get there, is really important. And that's what I love about Fig as well. Like, I'm always upstream, right? I'm not handed something when it's already been sold, which often leads to more disconnected and expensive work. Like, I'm involved during creative development to help us sell, and do the best job selling the best creative. So. Yeah,
that's wonderful. What would you tell your younger self? Way back when.
Start using minoxidil earlier.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It was funny though. Sorry. I would say this is going to be anti, but I would say, continue working as hard as I do, but making sure you take some time for yourself. Because I think you need to recharge.
Yeah.
I think you get the best work out of yourself when you also take care of yourself, and I think it goes back to that sort of way I was not brought up, but like that work ethic, that producer gene we all had during that time period, where it's just like, we're so passionate about, making the work all the time, that I think it's important to take some time for yourself. And I think the Gen Z kids do it really well. They're very good at it. I respect those Gen Z kids. They'll I got therapy at 1:00. Okay, I'm not going to be in the, they take care of themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they know how to take time off, and they do share a very similar passion. They want to do great work too. I think they just found a way to they take care of their personal time too. And I think that's, I think that would be the only thing is, got to recharge to sometimes get the best out of yourself sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about TV shows and movies? You keeping up with things? What do you do in your spare time?
Yeah, I definitely, I started mixing a little bit.
All right,
it's a little cliche, but I always loved old school hip hop. And I had a bucket list. I'm like, I want to learn how to mix. I could do a few parties, because I really like old school hip hop and 90s R&B, and I got to give props to Gina at Mac Cut, who's she's a managing director at a great editorial house, and she gave me my first gig at Mac Cut rooftop party. And,
okay, I was about to ask, are you available for hire?
I am.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
I still got. The thing is, I wish I started much earlier because it's hard to practice, but it's really fun. It's nerve wracking as hell.
I would guess.
The first one I did, I was so scared. I
was take
up all
two.
night.
You can't just go back and do it again and the rest of the world doesn't know.
But you know what? No one cares. Once you're doing it, no one cares. I think it might get to dance party time, but for the first 3 hours, no one, as long as the music's going, it's a good vibe.
Yeah.
But I think it's putting yourself out there. And I think it goes back to maybe less about vacation time for myself, but what are things I can do outside of advertising to expand my, me. I think the job is very all encompassing, that it's important to take time for yourself. So that's been really cool. I love shows. I love bad shows and I love good shows.
Oh,
I might catch, You might catch me watching Love Is Blind.
Okay.
You know, you might catch me, you know, watching Task.
Okay.
Which is dope. Task was dope.
Okay, I need to check it out. It's
Very
been on
good.
my list. Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo was awesome. But
I do
no,
love
and
him.
you know, I have kids. We watch kids movies too. And
How old are your kids?
my daughter Milo is 11, and my son River is 8.
Okay.
So that's super fun. But yeah, I think I have an eclectic, eclectic taste, because I think in shows, like, sometimes you just want to veg out.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not embarrassed. I like romantic comedies, you know.
Yeah. What's the top romantic comedy of yours, a fave?
I think like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, you know, Kate
classic.
Hudson, McConaughey. I'll even watch Fool's Gold with them. You know, that's how low my bar is sometimes.
That's amazing. My favorite is While You Were Sleeping.
That's great.
Sandra Bullock, Bill Pullman.
Yeah,
Peter
that's
Gallagher.
classic. Super
It's
classic.
such a great movie. I watch it pretty much every year with my family. My
That's
dad was
awesome.
from Chicago, and Chicago is like a character in the movie. It's
That's
so
amazing.
great.
That's like Ferris Bueller too, right? I mean, wasn't Ferris Bueller in Chicago too?
Was it?
Yeah.
I'm not a huge. I've only seen Ferris Bueller once.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
So great. All right. It's a great movie. We actually just recently watched it with my kids, but
Okay.
well, I'll check it. Wait, Sandra Bullock, who's the guy in it again?
Bill Pullman is the main guy,
my
but
God.
Peter Gallagher's also in it.
Gallagher. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a star-studded, and then the older actors in it are phenomenal. And it's so much more than just a romantic comedy. Like, she's finding a family again because she has no family. So she fell in love with everybody in the family as she kind of went through this thing.
She was classic.
Oh yeah, that is.
I'll check that out again because
Peak.
that's definitely in my
Watch that with the
wheelhouse.
family.
That's on my brand for sure.
Love it.
All right, I'll check it out.
Every year, yeah. My mom, she would be so involved in. She would go to the theater. I think she saw it multiple times in theater.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in there, and they're like, "Tell me any reason I shouldn't marry your brother." And he doesn't say anything. and even though he's, of course, in love with her and such. And my mom would just yell in the theater, "Tell her you love her."
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a movie in itself. That's its own. That's amazing. I'm gonna check that out. Maybe I'll watch it this weekend. Maybe I'll
Okay.
watch it tonight.
Oh, that'd be even better. Yeah, let me know. Let
I
me know.
will.
Give,
I
give me
will.
a nice brief on it. Are you in Letterboxd?
What?
Do you know what Letterboxd is?
Yes.
Okay. Are you on Letterboxd?
Oh, I'm not on Letterboxd.
Okay.
What is that act? No, I'm not on Letterboxd.
Okay. So Letterboxd is
Like top 4. Give me your top something, right? Isn't that-
Yeah, exactly. So Letterboxd it's a social media app, but it's like old school, like early social media, in that there's not necessarily all these like algorithms that are trying to push
Got it.
things on you. It's genuinely, you connect with people, and I have it mainly to have a diary of the movies that I watch and what I thought of them. So I put ratings. So I
that's
log
cool.
it. Just like you post a photo on Instagram for your family and things, you don't do that on Letterboxd. Letterboxd, you literally go, "I watched certain movie on this day. This is what I thought of it." And then you can follow other people and friends, whether celebrities or your friends, and seeing what movies they're watching. And then on your profile, you have a top 4. So you might have seen like interviews. Now that Letterboxd is becoming a little bit of like a known thing in the industry, then they might ask celebrities at red carpet events, like they have the little logo of Letterboxd and like, "Oh, the Letterboxd people, I love you. What's your top 4?" And then they give like their top 4 movies. I rotate my top 4 because
I'm
I
gonna
don't
check
have
it out.
one top 4,
Yeah, someone mentioned that. I was like, okay. Then the top 4. Okay, so now
Yeah,
that makes
it
sense.
is. Well, again, I mainly got it because I was watching so many great movies, but then people would ask me, and it's just like, I couldn't think of it off the top of my head. And I was like, I've seen too many. I need a diary. And
That's
then
awesome.
you can do lists too. So I do a year-end list of like, what are my top movies that year? And then I have like an all-time list, which is about 125 movies right now. And which I give that list to people too if they want to like get to know me, because it's throughout my entire history of like growing up. And so you get
That's
a little
so cool.
snapshot of like who I am based upon like all these movies that I've seen and loved throughout my
That's
time
amazing.
period. So yeah, Letterboxd is great.
It's fine. That reminded me of a story. So
Yeah.
I was shooting a Jordan spot in somewhere, and we were in the agency, the head of business affairs from Wieden Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it's Angela. I can't remember her last. She's amazing. She's like the queen of BA there. And that's where we were just holding. We were shooting on the basketball court, and our video village was in the locker room of this
Okay.
arena.
Yeah.
And I remember we were having this debate, who knows romantic comedies better. So we had this contest where my creative director was just going to go online and start, naming like, just
Like actors, and then can you name the movie?
Can you name the movie,
Yeah.
like synopsis, whatever. I fucking destroyed her.
Yeah.
And it got embarrassing. Like she started feeling bad because I kept getting them all right.
Oh man.
But
that's
maybe
amazing.
I am more of a romantic. Anyone that sees this and knows me is like, Dan, you're full of shit. Of course we know you're a romantic comedy geek. But it was telling how many romantic
I
comedies.
love that. Now, do you do Hallmark movies?
No, but there's definitely a period where I was like into this, like weirdly into these like Lifetime thrillers.
Okay. Oh, Lifetime though. Okay, Lifetime thrillers. Okay.
How much you just lost a lot of respect for me right now. I can tell your eyes. You're like, all right, yo, let's cut this shit. Who's next? Let's get the HOP.
That's what I love about this industry. We all have all these different tastes. I'm trying to think. So, what is a Lifetime thriller? Is it also romance or with thrillerness, or like what?
I like the thrillers. It's always like a crazy ex or a someone stalking someone. The acting's terrible. It's awful. But the formula, they have this formula where the
formula's real.
The formula's real. I kind of am over that. I haven't watched it for like a year, but there was like a time where I was like, oh, I like these Lifetime thrillers.
Yeah.
Because they catch you, they get you. And sometimes it's like a good B actor once in a while. Wow. It was almost like a treat to get a really good actor or a B actor, because everyone else is like, you've never heard of them.
Right.
And it's just so cardboard, so simple.
Yeah.
But again, simple pleasures, guilty pleasures.
Absolutely. Well, my family loves and friends love Hallmark Christmas movies. Like,
yeah, that's huge. That's what like the
and they are so cookie cutter, but somehow they tweak it just enough that it's like they say it's like a warm hug, or a hot cup of cocoa.
It's comfort. Wherever people find happiness, enjoy, and that stuff, do it.
Yeah.
You know.
So what's like one cool thing? It could be a game, a service, an app, a trivia. Like for me, I could Letterbox. Like I say, check out Letterbox. That's a cool thing. Or a book.
Well, I think the DJ and the Serato, I think, is like my most passionate app or service.
Okay. Tell me more.
Well, Serato is the software we use to mix and DJ.
Okay.
I think it's what I spend most time on.
Okay. All right.
It's great, and my music service is a great music service called Music Direct, where they actually, because hip hop is hard because there's not a lot of intros in hip hop. So there's a service that actually creates edits with like more bars up front, instrumentals, things like that. So it just makes it more fun to like mix in, track to track. So I think that's what kind of I'm mostly into. I mean, obviously I got off TikTok, but then Instagram has Reels. It's like, God damn, I'm screwed with that because it's like
I feel you on that.
Right? It's so.
I found out on Instagram. I think you can do this on other apps too, but particularly on an iPad. If you're on Instagram on an iPad, there is a function where you can tap on like connections or followers, and it's like old school Instagram where you only see the posts from the people that you're following. No,
like close friends, right? That kind of, is that the one?
Well, you can do close friends like on stories and things, but no, it's literally your feed, just like in olden times.
That's cool.
And you can even do it in post order, so it's not even. Right now, it's like an algorithm. It could be like an older, it could be newer, and this one's like literally if they posted 2 minutes ago, then they're the first one on there.
Oh, that's cool. All right,
I wish I could default it to be that way always, every time I open up the app, but I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram.
I do too.
I have it deleted on my phone right now, and I access it on a web browser from time to time.
Yeah, it's like you can't get away. It's like you can't escape.
No.
I like posting funny stories. I mean, they're funny to me, but
yeah, me too. Well, that's the internet is beautiful and how it's brought so much humor into the world.
It really has. It's just the doom scrolling. It's just too
much. It is.
I have to read more books. I got to read more books. I mean, I read a lot about my industry and what I like to do and the DJing thing, but I got to read more books.
Yeah.
My kids read. I got to read.
There you go. There you go.
So you inspired me.
All right, well, that's good.
I'm going to the library after this.
All right, that sounds good. Right. Library, and then while you're sleeping. So
while you're sleeping,
there you go. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about today that I didn't ask?
The one thing I was going to say is, it's about like the people that bring this together.
Yeah,
I think a lot of times when we're on shoots and in that whole process, we're primarily working with the director and the line producer, and then sort of the assistant director and the DP and like real key crew.
Yeah.
But there's so many other people that bring that together, which is like the other 70 people on the crew on your shoot days. And I think that something that I just do after every shoot, I've done it for years, is instead of kind of running to the agency van when the shoot is over and going back to the hotel, like take the 10 minutes and just walk around and just shake everyone's hand.
I love that.
Because they'll look at you like you're an alien because they're not used to it, and these people, they make it happen, from the PA moving a fucking grip truck to, VTR to whatever. I just, just take 10 minutes, walk around and just say thank you. And it's the, I think it's just something I have always done. And I think, I don't think people do it because they really do look at you like an alien. Like, why are you sitting? And it's like, they're as much a part of this job as anybody else. And I just feel like it's very undervalued. Yeah. This is not like I'm not like preaching or anything. It just occurred
preach.
to me.
I love it. You're speaking to me.
Yeah.
You're speaking to me because like I've been directing for years, but sometimes I will executive produce when we have another one of our directors that gets the gig. Yeah. And I like to talk to everybody and thank them, but I don't think I've made the intentional effort to like actually make sure I make the rounds, if that makes sense. When I come across them, engage, but to take 10 minutes. Yeah. That is so meaningful. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's a really good exhortation and encouragement.
See, I wish I knew what that word meant if I read more. I'm going to use exhortation. What is it in a sentence
Exhortation.
Today? I'm going to listen. I got like an 850 on my SATs, but I have an Emmy. See, you can succeed. I'm like a poster boy. You can succeed.
You have an Emmy and cans.
I mean,
so cans. Lions.
I barely graduated. I mean, that's something, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry,
but you're proactive, can do, managing, pulling people together, wanting the best for everyone involved. I mean, it's like a force of goodwill, making things happen in the world. So I think that's beautiful. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, it's a really fun profession, and I think it's like you make it what you want. Like you kind of get what you put in, and I think that's why I think when you're a younger producer, it's a lot of work, But I think once you hit your stride, and again, it comes down to trust. People trust you. Start doing better projects. You start getting more freedom, and it's like I started doing. My first commercial I ever produced was like for Totino's pizza rolls. But I loved it.
Totino's is great.
But it was like my first spot, the 15-second commercial. But it was all mine. It was like we shot it in like what's it? Not Yonkers? No, what's it? Weehawken. Some baseball field in Weehawken.
Okay.
But it didn't matter. That was mine. It was my shoot. Mm-hmm. And I think it doesn't matter like how big or small. Like when you're learning the fundamentals, it's all the same. Yeah. It's just the stakes are higher and the jobs are bigger, but you're still shooting. And I think experience is experience, and you just have to like maximize all of those opportunities. You really get what you put in. And I think if you have the motivation and the passion and you could have fun with it, you can do anything, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like a traditional trajectory. Like I did start as a PA. And I think it doesn't matter. That's the beauty about production too. You don't have to come from production to get into production. You could have a theater background. You could be a DJ. You can, it's like,
you could be a tennis coach.
You could be a tennis coach. You could be anything, as long as you have taste, aesthetic, a great work ethic and passion, like there are a million great producers out there that aren't doing this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, taste, is it subjective? I think there are creatives in this industry that have impeccable taste, but there's also different strengths. There's creatives that are, the copywriters that are amazing at writing comedy. It's such a niche craft, to write good comedy. That's very difficult. But there's some creatives that can write great visual stories, you know what I mean? And art direct, great visual storytelling. So, I think I think that it's just a range of skill set when it comes to that. And there's some creatives that could do it all, you know. And there's partners that play off each other, you know what I mean? That's the beauty of a copywriter and art director dynamic is, and then having a great creative director that's mentoring them, that's guiding them, that's pushing the work to get better, right? Not trying to do the work, they're helping them get it better, just like I help my producers make the work better. But I think that there's nothing better than a great copywriter art director dynamic, you know.
Beautiful. So many good nuggets.
You gotta cut it up right. Come on.
All right.
My mom's gonna listen.
Perfect. Yeah, good.
You know, my kids might listen.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
But thank you. I really appreciate it. This is
Thank
awesome.
you so much for coming today.
You got it.
It's been a joy.
Awesome. Thank you.